Hi there, a very warm welcome to The Sweet Spot. It's the Racing Post's weekly golf show with Bruce Millington. And this week, Joe Champion joins us. Steve Palmer's still sunning himself. We had James Mason on the show last week, making his debut. Very good, had a couple of big price places. So Joe has got a hard act to follow. We will be previewing the second of the FedEx Cup Countdown playoff tournaments. It's the BMW Championship, and we've also got the Czech Masters, with some bigger than average names taking a crack at the European Tour. First, though, quick look back on last weekend. And Joe, Will Zalatoris finally broke his duck in dramatic fashion in a really thrilling playoff. Some playoffs can be quite dull, can't they? They just par their way around for ages and everyone's like, come on, get on with it. But that playoff had absolutely everything. It was brilliant. It's him and Sepp Straka, a player who had not made a cut since about Christmas time. 500 to 1 going into the tournament, and he had chances to win. It was a brilliant playoff, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was fantastic. You mentioned that boring par playoffs. The first hole was pretty standard, and then from then on, all hell kind of broke loose, didn't it? We had Will Zalatoris. He hits his drive on the second playoff hole, goes miles right, nearly goes out of bounds, and then Straka, he then goes left and goes in the water, manages to hop out the water and just manages to rest on a bank. They had to take a drop anyway. They both end up hitting the green with their third shots and a couple of clutch par putts to stay in the playoff, and bogey putts rather, to stay in the playoff. And then it became even more wild when they moved to the par three. I quite like par threes on the playoff holes.
With the water, that was perfect. And Zalatoris, his tee shot bounced 8 times on the stone and came to rest. It looked like he got a lucky break, but it was an impossible position, wasn't he? He was kind of buried between the stone of the cladding by the water and the turf. He just couldn't do anything. But Straka had ballsed up, hadn't he? Hit it into the bunker with his third shot. So anyway, Zalatoris got it done.
Straka, I mean, what's he thinking there? I mean, that shot he hits in the water, when all he needs to do is just find the heart of the green and then two putt, and he almost certainly beats Zalatoris, because there's no way Zalatoris is going to get up and down from where he is. But he didn't, and then Zalatoris can thank his caddy, I think, because the caddy was the one that said, you've got to go to the drop zone here.
You say that, but he took a long time to make what was a fairly obvious decision. I mean, I was desperate for Zalatoris to have a crack at that, because I just don't know. I literally would have loved to have seen him have a go. But anyway, the bottom line is Zalatoris has now broken his duck. He's been challenging all year. It certainly has been coming, hasn't it? And I think also this yippy kind of putting charge that's been thrown at him a bit, that's not really the case anymore, is it? He's always been phenomenal tee to green. His long putts are fine. His short putts have been dodgy in the past. But I mean, now he's looking like the real deal, isn't he? And I know that there's a temptation, isn't there, Joe, that every time someone wins a tournament, we go, well, cool, he's going to go and win a million tournaments now, isn't he? But you get the feeling with this guy, there's more to come, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. He's such a good player from tee to green, as you mentioned. We have to be honest, he's still not, not even in the sort of, he still loses strokes on the greens, but he's not the terrible putter that he's been made out to be. And he's pretty solid now from that sort of 4 feet and in range. I mean, he's got that dodgy little backstroke that it looks uneasy. We don't like looking at it, but he doesn't miss many of those now. And I think that's the problem. And he's never really missed one of those when he's been in contention for anything either. We see it, he'll be tied 10th or something, they'll cut to him missing one, but not when he's been at the sharp end of the tournament. I don't think that's a problem. And I think as long as he has a decent enough putting week, then he's going to contend everywhere he goes, because his long game is up there with the best in the sport, and his iron play in particular, he's probably the best iron player in the world at the moment.
Yeah, and I mean, his major record was excellent this year. You wouldn't bet against him winning a major next year, I don't think. Well, some people might, but I mean, I certainly wouldn't. I think he's got a major in him very soon.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Masters is the next one on the list, and you'd expect him to go well there, as he has done before, especially if he can get one or two more wins in between now and April.
Absolutely. Anyone else in the field there? I mean, Finau was trying for the hat trick, wasn't he? He put up a good show, and Cam Smith ludicrously penalised 2 shots. That took the wind out of his sails. So it was a dramatic old tournament. Ended up with Straka and Zalatoris well clear, but a lot of the other prominent players did get in contention. I thought it was a terrific tournament.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of the prominent guys kind of made their way into it later into the tournament. It didn't look like a kind of FedEx Cup leaderboard in the early stages of the round, but in the early stages of the tournament. But they got there, and that's what we'll see, I think, in the playoffs. The elite players do come to the fore, and eventually we'll have a great field at Eastlake next week as well.
Absolutely. And over in Northern Ireland is the ISPS Handa Championship. And let me think now, it was Ewan Ferguson, wasn't it? Second tour win of the year for the Scot. Followed up the Qatar Masters with a very good win. Put it to bed really with a good third round, and then just hang on. And then Maya Stark, who's a very progressive Scandinavian, won the women's tournament. What were your main takeouts from what happened over in Northern Ireland last week, Joe?
Yeah, just how solid Ewan Ferguson was. He came out the traps really fast with that opening 61, and then just played sensible golf. I think he attributed playing with his good friend, the Scot Connor Syme, for 3 rounds. It helped keep him calm, really, and they kind of encouraged each other along the way. Obviously, Syme ended up finishing in a share of the runners-up spot. Very, very tidy iron player as well. Ewan Ferguson hits greens in regulation for fun. I think only Jordan Smith has better greens in regulation stats on the DP World Tour this season. So he's going to be a player to follow at those sort of tight tracks where you need to be hitting your greens. Maybe even the European Masters next week if he tees it up there.
Absolutely. Okay, let's look ahead to this week then, and we'll start off with the BMW Championship. Tell us where we are, Joe, and then we'll go through the prices and we'll get your tips.
So BMW Championship, this is a nomadic event, and it's at Wilmington Country Club in Delaware. That's the first time that Wilmington Country Club has hosted a professional event this week, and it's a 7,534-yard par 71. It did host the 2013 Palmer Cup. That's a Ryder Cup style college event, USA versus Europe. Justin Thomas played in that, and as you might expect, he won 3.5 points from 4 matches. But we don't have much. We don't have much or any form to go on apart from that. It's
okay.
A bit more just long Parkland track designed by Robert Trent Jones Sr. He's designed plenty of US Open venues and like Baltusrol, Bellweave, Oak Hill. You can expect top quality ball strikers to thrive this week.
Okay, not only do we not have much course form, in my case, we don't have much Wi-Fi, so I need you to read out the prices. Give us some guide prices, Joe.
Yeah, 1 second. My phone's just locked up. 10-1 favourite is Rory McIlroy. It's 14-1 Tony Finau. Scotty Scheffler, 16-1, along with Matt Fitzpatrick and last week's winner, Will Zalatoris. Xander Schauffele, 20-1, 22-1. Colin Morikawa, 25-1 bar.
How many selections?
4!
Good man, excellent. That was a very enthusiastic 4. James was a bit timid with his 4 last week. He just said it, but it was beginner's nerves probably. But never mind, he tipped very well. Let's see if you're going to tip well. Who's the headline for this one?
So the headline selection this week is Big Johnny Rahm. We've got 9 players between 10 and 20 to 1
Sorry. I need to jump in. I was so close when you read out the prices to saying, why is Johnny Rahm so short every single week? He's getting smashed by these guys every week, and he's still second favourite. Thank God I didn't say that. Why is Johnny Rahm going to make my opinion look stupid?
Well, I think it's all coming right for Jon Rahm. We know he's had a poor year. Apart from that win in Mexico, that was a low-grade tournament anyway. Last week, though, 5th at TPC Southwind, his best performance, apart from Mexico, since the Farmers Insurance Open at the start of the year. Drove the ball really well, as he tends to do. But what I liked about it was it wasn't just the driver. He started to warm up with the putter. He started to warm up with the irons as well. And he closed with a 67 in the 4th round to get that share of 5th place. And we've got the nappy factor in our favour this week with Jon Rahm. Recently announced the birth of his 2nd child and immediately started to produce his best golf again. I think we've not seen much of him really over the last few months. He's only really played the majors and a couple of tournaments here and there, but he's obviously starting to peak for these FedEx Cup playoffs now. He's 14th in the standings. A win this week and he'll be right up there heading to Eastlake, where we know how important it is to get in the top sort of 5 or so you've got that handicap start. He's got BMW form figures of 5-24, 5-1 and 9. Do you remember when he beat Dustin Johnson in a playoff at Olympia Fields in 2020? I'm expecting this to play sort of similar to Olympia Fields. That the BMW always played in these northeast tracks where, long northeast tracks where you have to hit greens and hit and drive the ball well, and that's really Jon Rahm's game to a tee. He's still elite from the tee, and I think his best performances tend to come on bent grass greens as well. The putter has held him back, but Olympia Fields, bent grass greens, Muirfield Village, where he should be a 2-time winner of the Memorial Tournament, bent grass greens, frequently played well at Augusta National as well, bent grass greens there.
Joe, isn't there a case for saying that he's just had a really, really awfully disappointing year and that the prices don't really reflect that? Everyone's been waiting for this Jon Rahm comeback, but it just hasn't happened. I mean, you're talking about 5th place last week being his best performance since the Farmers. That's ages ago.
Yeah, but I think that's it. We can't ignore these things when John Rahm does suddenly click back into form, because it might be something that happens, hopefully happens immediately. I don't think this is a flash in the pan. We're talking about a player who was a former world number one in the world, and has also, he was one of those players where we said, is he going to be the dominant force in golf from now on? Wasn't the case, but I don't think he's very far away. I think this could be the week where he really puts it all together.
I should really just be sitting here, nodding my head and going, right, what's the next tip? Instead of trying to pick holes in it. But there you go. Who is the next tip?
So we've got a sweet spot favourite for our next best, and that's Cam Young. Now undisputedly, I think, the best maiden on the PGA Tour after Will Zalatoris' win last week. And Cameron Young, he played last week. He only finished down the field in 31st place, but look a bit deeper into how he actually played. And this is a guy who was previously runner-up at the Open and the Rocket Mortgage Classic, arriving at the St. Jude last week. And he played really well from tee to green. It was only Will Zalatoris that ranked higher in strokes gained from tee to green than Cameron Young, who I think might be going out under the radar a bit because of that. You get 25 to 1 on Cameron Young. Apart from not winning yet, I mean, he's come so close. He's got 7 top 3 finishes this season. He's pretty much as elite as any of the players towards the top of the list. And as I say, 31st place last week probably didn't do him justice. And I think a return to sort of the northeast, he's a New York man, Cameron Young. So I think a return to that part of the world should probably see him in a better light as well.
Okay, then, right then. So we've got Big Johnny Rahm and we've got Cam Young. Next up?
Yeah, next up is Joaquin Niemann, who finished 13th at the FedEx St. Jude last week. That was his first start since the Open, and he started out with a 71, including a treble bogey. He played really well from the rest of the week onwards, shooting rounds of 66, 65, 69. Struck the ball brilliantly, was third in the approach stats. Only Zalatoris, and I can't quite think who else were ahead of him, but held back a bit with a putter. But I think we can upgrade that performance based on the fact that he's been off for nearly a month. And he's another player I think will appreciate the return to bent grass greens. His first PGA Tour title came in West Virginia, so that's nearby to Delaware at the Greenbrier. And he won his second in spectacular fashion at Riviera earlier in the year. Obviously, that's on the other side of the country, but it's a very similar sort of tree line track where the elite players tend to thrive, particularly if you've got strong tee to green game like Niemann. Both old classic tree line golf courses. It should be a good fit for a player who I really like and who I think is a very good price this week at 35 to 1 as well.
Lovely stuff. And who's the other tip, Joe?
So the last one I'm going to go for, it's a big price, and got 68 runners this week, we should mention. So it's not a full field event, obviously. Cam Smith and Tommy Fleetwood are the only absentees from the top 70.
Why is Cam Smith not in it?
Cam Smith's got an injury, although it wouldn't surprise me if he's a bit irked after his penalty last week. He's probably sort of thought, I'll chuck this in here. If he wants to play East Lake, he'll already be in anyway. So
okay.
Yeah, but he might not anyway. Happy to take a chance on Trey Mullinax at a big price. He was 5th last week. I mentioned this as a long course, Wilmington Country Club. And Trey Mullinax, one of the longest drivers on tour. He ranks 9th in driving distance on the PGA Tour this season. And he was excellent from tee to green last week. Only 3 players ranked better than him from tee to green. Won the Barbasol Championship in July. That came on bent grass greens as well. More than respectable 21st place on Open debut the following week. You wouldn't expect someone to come over from the Barbasol and immediately do well on a links course, but that's what he did. As I said, he hits the ball a mile, could take to this track. And it's a US Open style golf course. He was 9th in the US Open on his first of 2 US Open appearances in 2017. Probably playing the best golf he's played of his life right now.
And he was basically the last man standing apart from the front 2, wasn't he, there last week? But I think he just missed a shortish part at a fairly crucial moment, didn't he?
Yeah, I think at 125 to 1 with up to 8 each way places, you can definitely take a chance on Mullinax at that sort of price.
8 places in a 68 runner field, that's appealing, isn't it? I mean, it's a very strong field, but yeah, good stuff. Okay, Joe, thank you very much indeed. Okay, let's turn our attention now to the Czech Masters, which is the DP World Tour event. And we've got a couple of big names. It's been kind of same old faces last few weeks, but we've got 2 well-known players in this, very much prominent in the betting for obvious reasons. Joe, take it away with the betting and then tell us about the course, and then we'll get your selections.
So your 15 to 2 favourite, you like this one, Bruce? It's Thomas Pieters, the 15 to 2 favourite. Victor Perez is 20 to 1. Richard Mansell 22 to 1. Henny Duplessis 25s with Sean Crocker, Laurie Cantor, Friston the Piston Lawrence, and Eddie Pepperell 28 to 1, along with Wilco Nienaber.
Poulter's interesting this week, isn't he? I mean, he went off and went to play in Live because he wanted to get his work-life balance okay. And here he is popping up in one of the more mundane episodes in the European Tour calendar. So not quite sure what he's doing there, but isn't he? Well, we'll find out what your tips. We'll get the course first, but he just intrigued me a little bit at that sort of price. But we'll find out whether Joe fancies him or not before he tells us all about the venue for the Czech Masters.
Yeah, so unlike the BMW Championship, we're at a familiar venue this week, the Albatross Golf Club near Prague, 7,468 yard par 72, which has staged this event every year since 2014. That's with the exception of 2020 when it was cancelled due to COVID. Wide open fairways, plays into the hands of bombers, probably more than any other track on the DP World Tour. This is an absolute bomber's paradise. Previous winners include Thomas Pieters twice, which explains his price at the head of the market. Hayden Porteous, Johannes Veerman, previous runners-up, Sean Crocker, Tapio Polkin and Adriano Pella Edberg, all hit it an absolute mile. I think that's what we're looking for this week.
Okay, and how many tips have you got for this?
I've got 5 for this one.
5 for this one. Lead on then with the headliner.
Yeah, so we'll talk about Thomas Pieters. I mean, he's the main man at this track. Form figures of 1, 2, 66, 9 and 1. But at that sort of price, I can probably leave him out. Happy to keep faith with Richard Mansell, who was tipped up by James last week and has been very popular on the sweet spot in recent months. Now, Mansell had a chance to win last week. He got within touching distance of you and Ferguson, but played the last 4 holes in 3 over par. But I'm not too worried about that. He's just been playing generally really well, and I think we've seen
was
players.
Was that a Botley 3 over through 4, or just the way it goes?
It's hard to say, really. You want to say that players aren't bottling it when you're about to tip them again, but you never really know. But I think we've seen players bounce back. Richie Ramsey was a recent example of that in the Kazoo Classic. He had the British Masters at his mercy and he double bogeyed the last, and then he came back a couple of weeks later and won a title. I'm hoping that Mansell can do that this week at a course where his top class driving really should play into his hands. He ranked first for both driving accuracy and distance in the final round of the World Invitational last week. And he's one of the longest drivers on the DP World Tour in general. 4 top 10 finishes to his name this year. And he plays Albatross for the second time. Respectable 39th place finish last season. He's obviously been playing a lot better this season. And that is an angle I've always liked for players who have shown improvement and they're coming to their second start on the course. And I do think that Mansell, this is a great chance for him to get over the line. He should love this course.
Righty-ho, a great driver called Mansell is Joe's tips to take the checkered flag. Who's the big danger?
So the next man was runner-up last year, and that's Sean Crocker at 25 to 1, a long driving American. I think all my tips are going to be long drivers for this. Runner-up on debut and has since won on the DP World Tour. He claimed the Hero Open 3 weeks ago. I was quite sweet on him the week after to go back-to-back at Celtic Manor. He missed the cut, not ideal, but you can possibly see why. It's his first win. Who knows what he was out doing in Scotland that night. St Andrews is probably a pretty good place to celebrate as well. But possible that just came too soon after a long-awaited win. And Crocker really is a great fit for the Albatross. It's a perfect place to unleash that massive driver of his. And the big issue of him will always be his putting. But when he does putt well enough, and as he did in Scotland, then it's very hard to not see him contending if the driver is up to its usual standard, which I expect it to be this week. He's had a week off to prepare for this as well.
Okay, tip number 3 is?
So another sweet spot favourite, and that's Wilco Nienaber, who is the longest driver on tour, and as I say, perfect fit for this course. He's been in and out this season, Nienaber, but he doesn't have full DP World Tour status, which I think is harmful. You never quite know where your next start's coming from. It's difficult to plan ahead. I think that may have harmed his development a bit, but we've seen glimpses of what Wilco Nienaber can do in recent weeks. He was 7th behind Crocker at the Hero Open and 23rd last week. Now, 23rd last week doesn't sound that amazing, but we need to remember that Galgorm Castle, very, very tight track, and you wouldn't have necessarily had this down as a good course fit for Wilco Nienaber. He was delighted with the state of his game last week on a course that would not be anywhere near what he would want. Played this course before in 2019, finished 51st and was going well through the first 2 rounds, fell away over the weekend, a bit younger then and a bit more inexperienced. 3 years later, he's a bit more of a seasoned player, still very young, of course, but I do expect him to be a bit more, less nervy in contention, perhaps. Struggled over the weekend at that point. Do expect better this time. He can go well. And the next one.
What price is Valco again?
Valco, I've got 40-1 written down, but I think he's 30-1 now. He's been nibbled out. He's been put up in a couple of other places, unsurprisingly. Hopefully that's good omen. The next one is Gavin Green at 66-1. He's a long driving Malaysian, once a very highly rated prospect, but he struggled to control this ball off the tee, and he's now ranked outside the world's top 500. Not going to be such an issue this week, and this is a course where he has played well before. He was third here in 2018, and it wouldn't have been that long ago, probably a couple of years ago, where Gavin Green would have been a much shorter price in this kind of field. As I say, his game's gone off a cliff, but showing signs that he can get back to where he was. Started very well in a valuable Asian Tour event last week in Singapore, which included a few of the live guys, Patrick Reed, Justin Harding, a few other Asian Tour players were there. And he opened up with 2 rounds of 65, was leading the way. Fell away a bit over the weekend, but stuck around well to finish second. Should take a lot of confidence from that performance. And as I say, he's returning to a track where he has gone well in the past.
Okay, we've got Mansell, we've got Crocker, we've got Green, we've got Nienaber, and we've got
Lee Slattery, 150-1. Big price. Hasn't won for a long time. Just showing signs that he might be able to get back to contend at that sort of odds. I'm happy to take someone that sort of each way price in a field like this. Who knows when he might pop up? And in recent weeks, he's played the last 4 weeks. Like, he hasn't got full DP World Tour status either. This is a great chance for him to sort that out. And he's shown signs that his game is in good order. He was 11th for the Kazoo Classic at Hillside. That's a local track for him, obviously spurred him on a bit. And then back that up when 25th at Celtic Manor. Really encouraging signs, given that he's been mainly consigned to playing on the Challenge Tour this year. Obviously, a chance for him to finally get that card back. Striking the ball really well recently. Has been driving it longer than Lee Slattery tends to, actually. He's ranking sort of in the top 40 for driving distance. And his Albatross form figures really catch the eye, actually. Second 4 years ago, or well, 5 years ago in the fourth last event. Fourth, and then 39th and 45th, even when he was not playing that well. Very good form figures for a player who, he's not top player, but I think that's probably a good sign that he's got such positive form figures of this course.
Excellent. So my class edge that I think I've got with Poulter could be nullified by a distance disadvantage. Do you think?
I think so, and he's not been fantastic in the live events. I think he was 14th last time out, but I mean, they haven't been unbelievably strong fields. Obviously, the most recent one was the best field, but yeah, I wouldn't be too keen on Poulter, and he just hasn't won that often. I mean, when was the last time he won anywhere?
Yeah. I'll probably back him, hate myself, and then and do my money. But never mind, that's golf betting, isn't it? Okay, Joe, thank you very much for that. So this week we can read all about your tips. We can read more about your reasoning in the Racing and Football Outlook. And who's doing the Racing Post in Steve's absence?
Ian Wilkerson.
Ian Wilkerson.
Covering the Racing Post. He had a winner last week with Ewan Ferguson.
He did indeed. So if you get the Racing Post on Wednesday, you can get Ian Wilkerson, Super Sub Wilco's tips. Joe's in the Outlook. Steve's back next week, as am I, when we'll be looking at the Tour Championship and also the European Masters. So in the meantime, many thanks, Joe. Well done. Good luck with your selections. Good luck, everybody, with your golf bets. Don't forget, only bet with money that you can afford to lose. There is nothing worse than backing a golfer, seeing them fall out of the money. You back them 9 places and they finish 10th. You back them 10 places and finish 11th. But if you're only doing it for small stakes, it's not going to hurt too badly. We're back next week with another sweet spot.